What was that like?
I was not there.
You were not there.
I was not there. What can I say?
You were here, and you were watching that summit. What did you think when you saw that, and you saw the red carpet, and you saw Putin arrive to talk about your country?
I don't know. I think that it was bilateral summit, and it's a pity that Ukraine was not there, because I think that President Trump gave Putin what he wanted. He wanted very much to meet with President Trump, with the President of the United States, and I think that Putin got it, and it's a pity. Putin doesn't want to meet with me, but he wants very much to meet with the President of the United States, to show everybody video and images that he is there.
26 countries have agreed to send troops to Ukraine the day after a ceasefire deal has been agreed, hoping to persuade the US to back their efforts. A meeting between Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron took place alongside 35 allies at the summit in Alaskan. Anthony Albanese joined global leaders to bolster support for Ukraine, where security guarantees were top of the agenda. President Zelensky believes it's also about securing more weapons, finance and training for soldiers.
The general framework has been agreed on. We also understand that security guarantees are not only about the future, they are about the here and now. A strong Ukrainian army will be the central element of our security guarantees. It's also about our army's capabilities, the weapons, financing and training. All this needs to be secured.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen believes Kyiv needs to stand strong. She claims over 90,000 Ukrainian soldiers have already been trained and more will in the future.
Today there was resolve, but also concrete delivery. The leaders endorsed the work of their chiefs of defense and defense ministers. We will be relentless in our efforts to keep Ukraine strong, Europe safe and achieve peace. The first and strongest line of security guarantees are strong Ukrainian armed forces with no restrictions. We must turn Ukraine into a steel porcupine, indigestible for present and future aggressors.
Hopes for a deal to end the war have been diminished since Donald Trump's meeting with President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. He's now putting pressure on the EU to achieve a conference call between Putin and Zelensky.
So, on the Ukraine war, peace looks as distant as ever despite Trump's best efforts. Putin doesn't seem interested in negotiating any sort of deal. And in Beijing, he vowed to keep on fighting. This war's been going 3.5 years. How does the conflict ever end? I mean, Trump came to office insisting he could solve it in a day. What's the plan from here?
Well, I think there's a couple of options. I mean, one is I do believe that the war, the most likely way it would end is through some kind of negotiated settlement, and similar to what we established after the Korean War. Separate the two sides, and you have some kind of armistice in place. That would be the most desirable option. We obviously have a lot of work to do. It's obvious that Putin doesn't agree with that. President Trump certainly wants this war to end. Zelensky does, and so do his people. But they don't want to do it on Russian terms. I'm talking about Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. They're clear about that. They don't want to give up a territory that Russia has not taken. They want the 19,000 kids that they've kidnapped back, and they certainly want the prisoners of war back, which would likely take place if the war did end. But the other way it would end, if Putin has his way, what he's trying to do is break the will of the United States, wear us out and wear our president out in supporting Ukraine, and do the same with the Europeans. And he's prepared to continue the war. I mean, the fact is, we haven't demonstrated to Putin that his strategic objective, which is to take Ukraine, that's obvious, and also expand into Eastern Europe, we haven't deterred him from the thought that continuing the war is his best option. And that's why he's continued to talk nice, but play very, very hard. And until we get to that point where he sees that continuing the war is not a good option for him, his economy is in the tank and it's going to get further. The Russian people are starting to suffer as a result of that, and they see the war as being hopeless. And we give Ukraine the weapons they need to shut down Russia's offensive, and then we give them the weapons they need to conduct deep attacks into Russia and take away the sanctuary they have for all of their logistics that's supporting the war. If we did those two things and tough economic sanctions, and then took them out of this SWIFT financial exchange system, then they were going to have a problem. And that would likely mean some kind of negotiated settlement. But we're far from that, as you can see.
Well, I've got to ask you, you make it sound so simple. Why haven't those things been done?
It's a lack of will. And I think the reality has been that we're trying to work a deal with Putin, and he is a master at manipulation and delay tactics. And he keeps promising, like he did in Alaska. I think the results were obvious in Alaska. He promised that he will meet with Zelensky in a bilateral meeting, and then have a trilateral meeting that would include President Trump after. So on September the 1st, his spokesperson said there never was an agreement for a bilateral or a trilateral meeting going forward. A promise made and a promise not kept. We've been watching this for months, and it's likely going to continue, where he'll throw us a bone, some incentive that looks appealing, that he's maybe changing his position. But then once you get into the details of something like that, it could lead maybe to another discussion with him. Then he's still delayed. And until such time as we put the hammer down, so to speak, and do the three things that I suggested we do, the military and the economic combined, I think we're just going to continue to protract this thing, and I think protract it unnecessarily.